I'm Joseph Edwards, and I'm a student at the University of Wollongong studying history and politics, and I've been working on the Kiama Library's World War I walking app. I took over the work from Ken Donlan. He did the bulk of collecting people's stories, so what I came into was basically a collection of individual soldier stories which had been collected from their families. The Kiama Library has actually created previous walking apps, so I got to actually talk to my colleagues and kind of learn from their experiences on the do's and don'ts, like what works, what doesn't. I had to try and bounce practicality so it was doable with as much, history as possible. Kiama's contribution to the war was primarily at the beginning of it, like the early parts of it, and whether due to planning or coincidence, it kind of became a hub for a lot of the country towns and more rural areas for the young men who were going to war to kind of meet up, do their early preliminary training, and then after being sent off to, I believe, Liverpool and Sydney for their final training, they would be sent overseas.
The First World War was purely volunteers. The people of Australia generally organised themselves in terms of who was to be a volunteer. So it was very much community driven. There were war committees in virtually every town in Australia, but it was the community that organised all of the events, from the Red Cross to rifle associations to business groups, and just members of the community who understood the sacrifices that were being made, but also understood what Australia needed at that time, which was volunteers. So every town did their own recruitment, where they, to use the term, drummed up support. Men just came out of the crowd, put their hand up, and they were wildly applauded by the locals for volunteering for, in those days, king and country, including Kiama, who had a particularly good committee. Kiama was a major port in those days, a major tree felling area, and a burgeoning rural farm area as well. So it was a very important area.
The stories try to catalogue the time just before they left to go overseas and fight in the war, their period during the war, and in some parts how their family reacted from while they were at home, whether that be from receiving the letters or the sad news, and when they came back. Working on the app helped bring awareness, helped kind of really connect you to the personal stories of people and remind you that while it's easy to get caught up in the big numbers, the fact that this was a war between countries, between continents, that ultimately these were just your everyday people, same as you and me, who went overseas. These weren't people that wanted to go to war. They did have a sense of duty.
A lot of the men were very young. Some tried to join at 16 or 17. They went for many, many reasons, including having fun. But that fun certainly changed. And if you read the great references put out by historians up and down the coast, you get to understand why they joined, but later on, what they were putting up with.
Ready at the starting call for men.
Before doing anything, I thought it was important to establish what actually happened. What was the timeline? How did the community react? And then from there, basically design a tour around that. At the earlier parts of the war, there was a lot of enthusiasm and support for the camp. There was that sense of patriotism, the sense that Kiama was doing their part in support of the war. However, over the course of the war, that enthusiasm, like many places in Australia, began to wane because as the population of the town began to drop, people were sending their children, their sons away overseas, no one was there to work the farms, no one was there to actually populate the town, keep the town going. So eventually reality kind of sunk in. I tried to cross over the present and the past through some photoshopping of images. Sites I would have loved to include in the tour are no longer around. Now the letters from the front were as a section in the local paper. Basically the families would receive the letters and they would donate them to the local newspaper to publish. These letters were letters from the soldiers, telling their experience, like telling them like what's happening over there. I always found them really interesting to read through because there was always that sense of dualism in them, where they want to tell their family what's actually happening over there, like almost vent the horrors that they're experiencing, but they never wanted to go too far because they didn't want to bring their family any more stress. I think the other thing it also really showed was a sense of community. The soldiers in these letters, they'd be asking like, how was Jim or how was Jenny down the road? Like, they'd express curiosity of how is Kiama going while I'm over here.